It's not just like affirm that I am wealthy over and over again and you will become wealthy. It's how do we get to the core of the scarcity seeds? How do we bring those to the surface, process them, integrate them, and then make a new empowered decision about our lives from a regulated place?
All right, everybody. Today we have Scarlett Stanhope on the podcast, also known as the Biz Hippie. So, Scarlett, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited for our conversation today.
So, we're going to be getting to talking about things like creating your life and wealth and getting rid of scarcity seeds. But first, I would love to hear a little bit about your background, your story. Like, where does the Biz Hippie title come from? How did you get into this work with money and wealth and creation and abundance?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really been a journey to get to where I am now. And basically, where the biz hippie comes from is it's this combination of the multiple sides of me or the multiple aspects of me that I found to be pretty common when I speak to other people. So, on the one hand of me, there's this more like strategic, action oriented, successful, more business style person, right? And growing up, that was mostly who I was. I was a type A, high achiever, perfectionist, straight A student. And that was in some ways viewed to be really successful and awesome from society, but it was also very stressful and put a lot of weight and pressure on myself and really encouraged me to change who I was and hide parts of who I was so that I could be, quote, successful in life. And so that was my business or my like overachieving wounded masculine energy is another way to look at it. And then on the other side, later on in life, after I, hit my own rock bottom and began my own self discovery journey, I discovered the hippie side of me, which is more of the flowing, free, fun, feminine, enjoy life, express myself, be one with nature, walk barefoot outside, say yes to adventures, live my life to the fullest, hippie style life. And so my pendulum has swung from one to the other within my life. I've been on both extremes. And then I created the Biz Hippie as a representation of me finding that place in the middle where I could be both aspects of myself in a really healthy way and use both of those skills to help me create a balanced and aligned life for myself and then helping my clients to do the same.
I love this so much because boy, can I relate to, we get so praised for those things like I'm a high achiever and I can do things. And when you're great at that, it makes sense to really go towards that identity. And then I love hearing about this shift because there's so many people out, we're so multifaceted. And I know a lot of the people listening in my audience really get this. They're different. They're on this different journey of personal growth and development. Yet, of course, like we live in this 3D reality where those logical skills and how do I work with finances and I require money to like live. I'd love you just to dive in on your perspective of wealth, of creation from this very holistic place.
Yeah, because it's so easy to get caught up in the idea of just make money, make a lot of money, be successful, right? And that was a trap that I found myself caught in at a very young age. And on paper, I was very successful. I was getting my degree in business management, accounting, and finance. I thought I was so cool. I had a 3.9 GPA. I had $30,000 in savings and no debt at all. So I like looked very good on paper, but as a result, I was emotionally bankrupt and spiritually bankrupt. So it was imbalanced wealth. And it was this idea of I'm just going to work hard to be rich, but I'm not going to be wealthy. I'm not going to be abundant. And so to me, when I speak about abundance, it's really coming back to yourself, discovering who am I? What's important to me? How can I learn to trust myself, love myself, and build confidence in myself? How can I know what is most important to me, what I value, what I prioritize, and how can I consciously choose to live that life every single day. And so living your most abundant life is really living an aligned life where you get to say yes to what fulfills you, and you have the courage to say no to what doesn't, without money being the thing that's impacting those choices. But instead, you're the one in control of your life, and money just gets to be a tool that helps you to create it.
I love that so much. It's so easy. Like you said, I think a lot of us have reached a point of success or an amount of money that we thought would be the answer. And then, or it could be a relationship or a house or whatever that is. And you get there and there's this emptiness because it's not actually about something external, or we place our value or our worth outside of ourselves. So I love when you talk about it's actually all within us. And when we're creating from that sense of joy and what lights us up, money just comes from that. And can you speak to, either for yourself or what you've seen, how does someone make that leap? Because it's hard, right, to not make choices based on the money, especially when things are like, uh-oh, I feel like I don't have enough. That energy of scarcity, then it's like you want to revert back to, but it's about the money. So how do I like go forward?
Yeah, and that's such a good question. It's so important to talk about because we do live in a world where money matters. So I'm not just saying, like, screw money, ignore it, do whatever you want to do. It's all going to be fine, because I am not I'm not
Right.
saying that, but there are multiple pieces that get involved in how do I make this shift into having control over my life instead of having money be in control of me. And so some of those factors include deep self-awareness work and repatterning our beliefs and our mindset and our relationship to money. And that's really where I start, is digging into what I call scarcity seeds. These are the beliefs of scarcity that are often ingrained into our subconscious mind simply by growing up and being raised in this society, especially if you're raised in more of a Western, capitalistic, America, Canada style type of place,
Yeah.
right? This idea of there's not enough to go around, there's not enough for me. I really need to hustle and work hard to be successful. I really need to work really hard in order to live, in order to survive. I need to fight every single day. Otherwise, I'm a failure. I'm going to be broke. I'm not going to make it. So we spend a lot of time living in fear, living in fight or flight, because we have these preconceived, instilled beliefs impacting our current relationship with money. And so, one of the most important things you can do is bring awareness to these current beliefs and to your current relationship with money, and begin to release the scarce beliefs and start to instill new abundance based beliefs. So, that's at the foundation. But then, in addition to that, the other piece that's really important is not only this internal awareness, but also the financial awareness, right? It is also important that we see what is actually happening with our money, because one of the biggest reasons why people spend so much time living in scarcity is because they have no idea what is actually happening with their money. And because of that, it's like a monster in the closet that's just growing and evolving and is terrifying, and we can't face it. And it's like secretly looming over us all the time, and we don't know what to do about it, as opposed to opening the closet, shining some light in there, seeing what's actually going on, and then making some decisions and choices based on reality, which is a totally different way to approach your money. And that can really shift the energy out of scarcity and into abundance really, really quickly, even if your actual money situation doesn't change at all.
I love this because I have a couple questions, but I remember I didn't work for a time when my daughters were young, and I was just starting to work again and did a financial awareness exercise, really looked at, okay, what's going out? And also, what would I like to be going out, like spending my money on too? Not like extravagant, but just, what I would like to include, like yoga classes or a workshop every now and again. And I remember looking at that number, and it was double what we had coming in. And it was this realization of, oh, well, that's why we're in credit card debt. Like, that's why we're used to using that. And I grew up in a family where that was very much like, you put on a credit card and then you pay it. We always paid it, but that was such a like a seed and a neural pathway that was very well worn and comfortable. And so that exercise immediately, every time I do that again, and every time my life changes once a year, I sit down and look at that again so I can have clarity with this is what I require for my life to feel really good and take care of my daughters and that, and also from an enjoyable energy. And I've always seen the universe or whatever you guys want to call that, like catch up, where I will be making that amount within the next year when I'm clear of this is where I'm currently at, this is where I would like to go. That being said, I'd love to hear you talk about how do you get to the place where it feels safe enough? Because you mentioned like the nervous system and money brings up a lot of fight or flight for people. You know, it's this instant, I don't want to look at my numbers. I don't want to look at my bank account. How do you like advise or get people to like actually be willing to turn on that flashlight and not just keep avoiding it?
Yes, because I do see this often. And this comes back to, again, the beginning of the work that I do with my clients, which is all of that internal work. And that's why we do it first. Because early on, when I built the Empowered Abundance program, I really wasn't including my coaching modalities in it. It was more of just the finances and just the looking at the money. And it was like, here you go. This is all you need to do. Let me hand you this money management tool on a silver platter. And yet there was so much resistance to using it. There's these thoughts and stories and beliefs of, oh, it's going to be complicated, it's scary, it's hard, I can't do it. Right, even though it was simple, even though it was easy, even though it was right there. And so what I discovered is we really need that time in the beginning to go deep within ourselves, face our shadows, start to already do the foundational work of shifting our relationship with money and our beliefs around money, and also get really comfortable with the discomfort as well. Because your relationship with money is about so much more than money, because your money is just a reflection of you, your beliefs about yourself, the way that you choose to live your life and create your life every single day. And so I teach how to expand your capacity to experience life. And that means experiencing more of the highs of life, but also feeling and experiencing more of the lows of life and that discomfort and being okay with that. And then all of that translates to your money. And when you touch on all of these first, that opens up the doorway to being willing to look at your money. And what I have found is, even though it can be scary and even though it can be intimidating, 70% of the money stress goes away because most of that money stress lives in the unknown around money.
And I think that's such a beautiful way of looking at it. We are wired to avoid what's uncomfortable. You're also a yoga teacher, so I'd love to hear you speak more to that importance of that expanding the capacity in both directions. You know, I do a lot of nervous system regulation work, and we talk about like widening that window so it's more flexible so that you can handle, you don't feel as taken off, like totally triggered and gone when something quote negative or just on the other end of the spectrum happens. And also really like you mentioned, like really enjoying this beautiful high end of like all these great things. And when we are gifted this, we're in a body, and our body still has this ancient system of, hey, my number one priority is to survive. And money really pings that because we have it as a survival thing. So it makes sense. We might want to consciously, of course, change our money situation. But if we don't address these like scarcity seeds, like you call them, that are hidden, then we have all of the unconscious, like 95% moving in this direction of, yeah, but that's uncomfortable. That's scary, which gets read as that might kill me. So I will stay in debt or I will stay not looking at my finances. So do you incorporate, in addition to like the points of view and clearing those, because I look at that as kind of top down work, we work with the beliefs, and do you incorporate, or what do you see as the value of bottom up work, like more like the body stuff? Because I know you teach yoga, but I'm not sure if you use that in that way.
Yeah, nervous system is a huge part of this work because exactly what we're talking about, you have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. And then another big part of it is processing the stories and the emotions that we've been holding on to. Because you can consciously want a lot more money. But you can have these stories that were ingrained in childhood that money is bad because my parents fought about money all the time. And so, therefore, money is a bad thing. And the more that we have of it, then the more that there'll be fights in my life, or the more that makes me a bad person. So, when we do story work, is one of the coaching modalities that I bring into my clients. What we're doing is we're processing those stories, and we do it with the breath. And that's really bringing in the nervous system component so that we're able to take these stories that were once unconscious, bring them into consciousness, and then slow down the nervous system and regulate the nervous system so that we're able to actually process them, release the emotions attached to them, and then instill a new belief. So it's not just like affirm that I am wealthy over and over again and you will become wealthy. It's how do we get to the core of the scarcity seeds, right? The stories, the different parts of ourselves that have been subconsciously repressed. How do we bring those to the surface? Process them, integrate them, and then make a new empowered decision about our lives from a regulated place.
I love story work. When I've experienced that, it's been amazing to, like, write down something from the past and also leaving out all the meanings I've made about it, right? Like, just like if you were sort of reporting it. And then that beautiful part of the breath of like saying a sentence and taking a deep breath. And it sounds so simple, right? But the effectiveness of, again, like letting your body and nervous system, it rewrites the past in a completely different way. It's like it doesn't have to be this scary and keep haunting you, even like it's playing in the background often when we're not really even aware of it. So I love that you bring that to your work. Ever notice how sometimes the simplest things can create the biggest shifts? I'm hosting a free workshop called Coming Home to Yourself, a free breathwork experience on January 29th. And in this 60-minute time together, you'll discover how breathwork can help you regulate your nervous system and feel safe in your body, access and deepen your intuition, and transform without all the force and effort. You'll experience a trauma-informed breath session where you choose the pace and depth. Plus, if you join us live, you'll receive a special founding member access to my new monthly breathwork membership coming in February. Register now at emilyevansrussell.com/experience, or in the show notes, you can find the link. Your breath is already waiting to show you what's possible.
Yeah, it's vital because otherwise you can do all the other work, right? You can even look at your money and see what's going on there. But at the same time, you're still going to have these underlying meanings and these underlying stories that are impacting what you see there. And so you're only going to continue to see scarcity.
I know you also do energy work like I do. And I like to look at it as, so when we write a story or change that story, we've changed the energy. And when we change the energy in something, like our job to go, I'm going in this new direction, and we sort of carve that energetic pathway, is such a small part. And then everything else gets to contribute now to this different possibility for this different future. Can you speak a bit about the energetic perspective of when you do this work, like rewriting stories and changing beliefs and nervous system work? How does that change the energetic direction forward and that identity really that comes with that?
Yes, and it's so important because it can play a really big role on the amount of effort and energy that it takes to get somewhere, right? To get to where you want to go. For example, commonly the thought process is, okay, I want more money because I feel like I don't have enough. And so I'm going to work even harder and I'm going to work even harder. And then it feels like, okay, I'm making more money, but it still doesn't feel like it's enough. So I guess I just need to keep working harder and make more money. And it's this never ending cycle of not enoughness. And the effort that it takes to create that more money is a lot of effort because so much of you is rooted in scarcity. Whereas bringing awareness to all parts of yourselves, what they believe, what they need, what choices they're making about you and about your life, and which direction they're pulling you in as a result. So, if we look at your whole self as 100%, and you have 75% of your unconscious selves operating from a place of scarcity, lack, not enoughness, having negative beliefs around money, actually pushing money away, then yeah, that 25% of you might be working really hard and hustling to move forward to make more money, but it's like there's 75% of you dragging you back behind, which is why it takes so much effort to feel like you're moving forward at all. Whereas when you take the time to do this internal work of looking at the different parts of you, learning to embody them, embrace them, satisfy their needs, and find safety for each of those parts, and you're able to align all of those parts so that they're all facing the same direction, working towards the same goal, then it's like you have 100% of you moving in the same direction. So that same amount of effort that it was taking to move one step forward when most of you was going backwards now can repel you forward exponentially because all of you is working together and is on the same team. So that's really what can create exponential growth in a way where just working hard and pushing forward can never do.
That's a really beautiful way to explain alignment because like you said, it's getting less all that ease of moving all of your horses in the same in the same direction rather than the other way, which we of course don't want to be pulled that way, but like you said, there may be a part of you that really wants to go in this other direction because it feels safer to not have that amount of money or not have that success or not be seen by a bunch of people. I'd love to touch upon this like efforting and working so hard. And you referred to in the beginning as like wounded masculine, or I like to call it like distorted masculine energy of this. And it's so easy to fall into. You get rewarded for hard work. As you said, like when you were younger, same thing. What does that look like to bring that in balance? Because a lot of, I know people that listen to this too have their own businesses, or it's maybe on the side, or they work with people. And a lot of people go, well, then I need to be totally, I'm going to ask for things and relax and be in the feminine energy. And I'm like, yeah, it's also this balance of we want the healthy versions of each. Can you speak a little bit to those energies and how to move into what may be a more like thriving, balanced way of, yes, there's action to take, but there's also this receiving part as well.
Absolutely. Right. Because I work with coaches and entrepreneurs as well. So I see this a lot in the work that I do, especially if you are already working hard in a 9 to 5 job and you want to transition full time into your business. There's this idea of, oh, so now I just need to give 100% in both directions. And there's not enough time and there's not enough energy to do it. So, what I really see is being one of the biggest contributing factors is bringing awareness to who am I and what do I want and what does my most abundant life look like now? And so I teach my clients how to tap into their vision and get crystal clear on what their vision is. Now, this is interesting because often our visions can be impacted by what we think success looks like, what our visions should be, how much we should be making in order to have an amazing life. Like, okay, I got it. I'm ready to be a multimillionaire. That's what I need to do in order to live my vision. But so often this is actually inaccurate, right? When we actually get really clear on who are we and what vision do I want to live, what would really be my best life, we can see that it's actually not that far from where we currently are. And so that's one piece is getting really clear on what is my actual vision. And then something that I teach, which is a really unique type of manifestation is get that vision very clear and then bring the money into it and see on paper what does it cost to live my vision. If I were living my vision right now financially, what does that require? What does that take? And what happens is it really grounds the vision into reality in a way that you don't have before, right? There's this idea of, okay, I want all these things. And then someday in the future, when I'm a millionaire, then it will happen. But instead, when you get it down on paper, you can realize, okay, actually, to really be living my vision, I only need $5,000 a month, for example. And it's going to change depending on what your vision is. But now you can see clearly, really, what does it take to make that happen? And then you have a clear path for getting there, right? As opposed to leaving it off in the future for someday, now you can break down step by step. So, this is my vision, and here's how I can step into it bit by bit every day by choosing what's important to me and leaving behind what isn't. And a lot of that comes down to the money, and also learning to see how your vision is true right now in your present reality, right? How can I recognize all the ways in which I'm already living my vision now and then also continue to expand into that?
Oh, that's so good and so huge. I remember hearing this tip and I really love this. Like to remind yourself of that you really have a lot already. And yes, we'd like to go here, but that constant reminder of resetting the brain to notice and appreciate what's here in the present. Like you're actually okay. We're okay right now. Was to put a little sticky note like on the toilet, like on the sink of, wow, I have running water. Like I'm taken care of. And like there's food in my fridge, like the little things, but your brain is scanning for those. So I just love that simplicity of the present moment because we are so easily can freak ourselves out, right? With, but I don't know what the future is going to hold and I'm not going to have enough or the past stories. And so to look at both of those directions and go, yeah, but let's also look at the present and get clear about what's going on now, what's required. I love that.
Yeah, it makes a really, really big difference. And it's amazing to see too how you can actually find your vision in the present reality all of the time. And really, what happens is it removes some of that hustle because you can relax into the abundance that is already here and also expand into that next level of abundance, but not in a hustle, rushing, I got to win this race kind of way, but in a I'm enjoying this experience and I am creating more.
Enjoying the experience is so huge, so huge.
Yeah.
So I've loved all of these like directions and paths we've gone. I'd love to ask you just, before we wrap up, are there any other tools or tips or like practices that you'd like to share that people can really kind of take and implement in their own lives as just as a start in this new direction?
Yeah, one of the biggest things that I would say is just starting to change your own relationship with money by recognizing what is your current relationship with money and what impact is that having on your life, right? Do you avoid your money? Do you have fear to check your bank account? Do you have fear to even look at, manage, and track your money? Do you have fear around spending money? Do you have fear around receiving money? Just recognizing any stickiness, any complex, misaligned emotions in your relationship with money. And you can look at your money as like a romantic relationship, right? If I was in a romantic relationship with somebody and I was ignoring them and I was afraid to see them and I felt like they were constantly bait and switching me, think about it like that and start to notice what is your current relationship with money actually like. And then even bringing awareness to that can start to shift things in a really big way for you. Instead of feeling like your money is in control of you, how can you start to recognize that you are already the one in control of your money every single day? And start to bring your awareness to what you're choosing, what you're deciding with your money. And when you're interacting with your money, how can you practice staying in a grounded, calm, safe space? And then at the same time, working towards more gratitude with the money that you have and even more intention with the choices that you're making with that money. And even those simple steps will start to shift your relationship with money in a really big way.
I've always loved that analogy of looking at money as your partner in a relationship because it's so clear of oh yeah, I wouldn't want to be in that relationship. Or if someone was really needy and like holding it all the time. I remember one of the home plays or practices I did at one point was writing a letter to money and starting off with really like thanking money for all the times it has been there to support me and protect and provide. And it gets your brain looking at, wow, this partner in this relationship has really shown up, and then writing how I would like to see that relationship go forward and what I'm here for and what I'm ready to shift and change. And it's such a powerful analogy because it really allows us to take something that I think is intangible or scary or to a lot of people and make it like, oh, I understand this dynamic. I know this one and what would actually be a healthy way to interact with someone. So I love that. Thank you so much. So Scarlett, where after, hearing this podcast and all these little tidbits, if someone wants to find you and work with you, what do you have on offer? Where can they go?
Yes, absolutely. So, my signature program, Empowered Abundance, is the best way to transform your relationship with money. So, you can check out the Empowered Abundance program on my website, thebizhippie.com. And also, I love to offer a special free abundance activation session for podcast listeners. So that's a 30-minute free deep dive session with me where we're going to get really clear on what your current relationship with money is, what the vision of your most abundant life looks like, and build a roadmap to help you get there. So if you'd like to hop on a 30-minute abundance activation session with me, you can do that on my website at thebizhippie.com/activate.
Oh, that's awesome. Cool. So we will put those links below for people to find. And just thank you again for all of these different ways of looking at things, telling us your story, and really looking at money from this like holistic, different perspective and providing really practical ways to start shifting our relationship with it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me today, Emily. This was such a great conversation.
I hope you got something out of that episode. If you like this podcast, please share it with someone you know who'd find it useful or interesting, and subscribe so that you can listen to past and upcoming shows.